Hey there, all you get out and growers, all you happy homesteaders, welcome to the Good Morning Portugal, Expats Portugal Gardening Q&A, wherever you are in the world right now. The two of us on the left hand of your screen are in Portugal, and that picture behind me I took earlier on, which way? I'll go this way. That's the view out the window today. Spring is here, I think. What about you, Lee? How's your garden looking? How's Portugal in your part of Portugal?
Lisbon's been superb today. Beautiful weather. Everything's looking green and lush. Everything's happy. Yeah, it's very nice.
Terrific. Glad to hear it. And you can see he sat there in the outside or the inside out part of the garden, right? You've got your barbecue, you've got a few tools and things there. Lovely place to sit out.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. And in Devon in the UK, the Fresh Air team are here as well. Anna and John, how's it going?
Hello. Yeah, good, thank you. Yes, it's been sort of dry but cloudy and about 12 degrees, it's saying, temperature-wise. But saying that I have been in all day, but it's not been feeling too cold. And spring's pretty much here, I think. Seeing lots of daffodils and colour coming up, and definitely lots of wildlife as well on the bird feeders.
Let's come back to you for a nice bird feeder report in a little while, then, because that's always a beautiful part of gardening, isn't it? John, how are you?
Yeah, quite good. Similar to Anna, really. I mean, it's just seeing a lot of the daffodils and things like that coming up, and a bit more wildlife as well. So it's all good. Getting better, really. Glad to hear it. Have you got that smell of wild garlic, which I know it can be quite prominent in South Devon? Have you got that wafting through the air yet? We do get that, but we haven't got it yet.
Okay. All right. And what about the bluebells? Because the bluebells are legendary in some parts of South Devon there. I guess you haven't been able to get out and about to see them, have you?
Not much. I'm trying to think if I've seen any. I think I might have seen some. I think we have a couple coming up here sometimes. But I'll have to keep a lookout next time I'm out and about. And
Superb. Okay, so head gardener Lee McGrady, he is available for hire. He very kindly does this for us out of the goodness of his heart. He's available for hire around the Lisbon area. Very accomplished, decades of experience in the garden. What have you been up to in your own garden, Lee?
I've done a little bit of top dressing today on the new lawns. Transplanted one of my orange trees. That's been moved today.
Ooh.
Generally just messing about. But I've had a lot of work on this last few days, so just been really busy. Really commercial. So
good.
Not complaining.
No, glad to hear it. But you say two things quite casually there that I think would be of interest to fellow gardeners. Top dressing a lawn. And did you say moving an orange tree?
Yeah, transplanted an orange tree as well.
Transplanting. Okay. Well, can we dig into both of those? Pardon the pun.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. It gets worse, I can tell you, because what I forgot to ask John there was his joke du jour, and we might, given the strength of the one we've heard already today, we might only let him have one, but we'll see. We might be able to encourage him to go into a few more. Back to John then for some horticultural jokes, and Anna to the bird feeding table in a little while. But Lee, top dressing the lawn, by the sound of it, we had a look last week, it's looking good. What is a top dressing for the lawn? It sounds obvious to you because you've been doing it for years, but what is it to a gardening muggle?
Oh yeah, it's a way of feeding it and adding nutrients to the soil, but it helps with so many other things as well. I like to top dress the fine turf lawns every year as much as possible. So I should really start off with what a top dressing is. In the UK, a top dressing would be a sand and then organic matter mix. And in the UK, we would use 80% sand, 20% organic matter. And on the golf courses, on the greens, they would use a 90% mix of sand to organic matter. So it helps with drainage. It helps the grass to drain, keeps puddles away. But you can add nutrients at the same time. You can put in like a fish and bone feed in with that. So as you're adding to the green or to the lawn, you're adding nutrients all the time. Like I said, helping with drainage. But you can also mix seed in with the top dressing. So you're filling all your bare spots and your boulder areas. But if you've got a lawn that's a little bit lumpy, you've got a little bit of sediment a settlement, which is what I've been doing today. You can just use the top dressing to cast across and cover those little divots in. So there's lots of uses for it. It's it really does help the lawn to regenerate and boost that growth. So,
excellent. Yeah. I had no idea. And when you said mixing seeds in, presumably you're talking about mixing a grass seed in there. I mean, some people like to put some other things in there. They're like a bit of chamomile or some. I mean, I was thinking immediately when you put fish and bone meal in, you're adding a bit of aromatherapy. Could you do that with fragrant plants, or is that too much trouble? Are you asking for trouble if you sow in other species into there?
I know some people do. It's not what I want to achieve. I want to achieve a fine lawn. But I know some people had buttercups and clovers, because clover is a really good plant to have in a long lawn. If you're not looking for a fine turf lawn, if you're looking for a strong lawn, clover is great to add for that. So some people, a lot of farmers do that. A lot of farmers will put clover seeds in with the cow feed and let it work naturally on the farm. So yeah, horses for courses, but for me it's fine turf. So
excellent. All right, and the other thing then, moving an orange tree. Now this might be of note and interest to some people who are buying a house in Portugal, might be newly here. They don't want a tree in a particular place. I'm guessing you can't transplant any old tree. You're talking about quite a young tree, aren't you? What have you been up to today in that department?
This is it's a fair sized tree. It's maybe 5 foot tall. It's got flowers on at the moment, which isn't ideal. But it was in a customer's garden, and they no longer wanted it. It was in a bad position. Okay. So it was going to be cut down or removed, got rid of. So I dug it up, and it's now in a container at the top of our garden. But it's got like a mildew disease on it. So I put it in a container. It's been sprayed. It's been put at the back of the garden, ready for see if it survives, really. See if we can get any life out of it.
Amazing. So it's in its own little quarantine at the moment to see if it recovers.
Yes.
And I'm surprised. Yeah, a 5-footer. What's the maximum you're looking at to be able to transplant a tree? And what sort of root ball did you have to allow for that as well? Because obviously you don't want to be chopping off any roots, but you can't go for all of them. Did you have a lot of work to do to get that out of the ground?
I was quite lucky with this one because it was already in a contained area. It was within 2 concrete raised beds kind of thing, so it wasn't too difficult to dig out. And I got a substantial root ball with it. And with it already being contained, all its fibrous roots, the really thin, hairy roots, were already tight packed. It was like it had been root bound. It's another gardening term. Yeah. It was already rooted in the container when I took it out from, so I had no issue with digging enough root out to shift it. Okay. Commercially, they move huge trees. I mean, massive trees get moved commercially. You have a special machine that comes in and just hydraulically pushes in and removes massive root balls. So amazing. I mean, there's no limit on the size of tree you can move if you wanted to spend the money. Okay. And dig.
Interesting. I just thought it was really dangerous to do that, but there you go. Excuse me, maybe a bit of hay fever already. Or something, some pollen, airborne pollen. I think from the look on John's face, he was doing a little bit of joke research there and having a bit of a giggle to himself about some of them. So, John, do you want to try us out? A good afternoon to you, Paul Williams in the Algarve. And we know there are a few people watching already. Do you have any questions for the head gardener? That's what this is all about. Q&A, which stands, as you know, for question and answer. If you're a newbie, if you're green, then you can ask questions. If you're green-fingered, then you can give answers. Or if you're in the United States, I think you call it green-thumbed over there rather than green-fingered. So let us know how your garden's growing as well. Send us pictures. Send us anything to do with gardening here on our regular slot at 6:15 Portugal time. John, what have you got for us?
Well, it was inspired by your talking about hay fever there. Oh. So, how do you greet pollen-related sneezes?
I don't know.
Fever.
Oh my word! Okay,
I know it's terrible, isn't it? I think I'll stop now.
Can we have just one more wafer thin joke here? which could put.
Okay.
What was the one you were on with earlier on?
Oh yeah, the one I was on had because this is the listeners haven't had the dubious pleasure of this one yet, have they? Okay. Although they might have seen it because I posted it on the group, but no. Anyway, so I can't remember what I said now.
It's the way you tell them, John.
What item of clothing can you wear for gardening and getting married?
What's the best clothing for gardening and getting married in? A weeding dress.
Oh, okay. You're straight in with the punchline there. A weeding dress. Yes, maybe you're right.
Yes.
Maybe we should move on to the bird table update from Newton Abbot in England.
Yes, it's been quite a busy time. I was just topping up the bird feeders because I think we've got about five or possibly 7 feeders out the front. We've got quite a few trees outside the front of the flat where we are, and I had quite an exciting time because we actually had a greater spotted woodpecker, and I've actually only seen one come once before. I think it came a couple of days ago, and unfortunately, because they are quite shy, it took off as I got my head around the door to try and have a look. But I actually did see it today, which was really, really good. Unfortunately, no picture again, but yes, it was. I know it was definitely a greater spotted because it had the greater spotted has more red on it, and the lesser spotted actually has less red. It's more black and white with a tiny bit of red on. So it was definitely a greater spotted. It didn't actually make any noise, so it was quite silent in its arrival. But yeah, we've had all sorts. We've had robins. We've had pigeons crashing into the trees. They tend to hoover up everything. So if you're not too mad on pigeons, then do take note. Because they do eat anything and everything, and yeah, all sorts of bird life outside today. So it's been really good for the wildlife side of things. So I'll keep you posted on anything that's going on. And there's also nuthatches as well. Beautiful. And yeah, it's quite interesting because the nuthatches that we have here are also the right way up as well as upside down, because they're quite renowned for feeding upside down, but they can be the right way up as well. So they're not too fussed, but they're a little bit like similar blue to a blue tip with a bit of like an orange, sort of peachy, orangey yellow kind of front to it, and it's got like a little line of black just going across its eye as well. So it's quite a different shape to the blue tip, which if you haven't seen one, is how you can spot it. Still yet to work out what its actual favourite food is. It seems to eat any seeds really. So yeah, but they're really good to see.
Absolutely. And a noisy feeding table is like the herald of spring in many ways, isn't it? And there is the beautiful bird you're talking about, the greater spotted woodpecker. That's a real find, I think. Over there in the UK. That's fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Lee, have you been taken by any wildlife you've seen here? Have you seen a hoopoe yet in Portugal? Because they're pretty special.
Yeah, I've seen a few actually.
They're great, aren't they? The way they fly, the sound of them.
They're a pretty bird. Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing them as well. I'm quite a big bird fan and photography fan. So I used to do quite a lot of photography in the UK of the birds on the feeders and in the garden.
Tremendous.
So I was quite looking forward to seeing the Portuguese wildlife when I got here. It's been good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And presumably, when you're turning over in the garden, there soil or other bigger objects in the garden, you are unearthing some interesting things. A few geckos, presumably, salamanders, some great big like oil beetles and centipedes, and some pretty scary things that you might not have been accustomed to before.
I've only seen one salamander while I've been here so far. I've seen the, what would you call it, the tadpoles of the salamander.
Oh yeah.
And I've only actually seen one. But in the garden here last year, my first 5 years were spent chasing snakes, trying to find snakes to take pictures of. Couldn't find them anywhere. Last year, I did 4 or 5 snakes, and I've had 2 this year already. So I've finally sussed out where they like to live, and I'm seeing more and more of them.
You go looking for them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they find me.
Yeah, well, I think I'd watch that on Netflix. McGrady, Snake Chaser. We have our first question that's come in from Jean Jean van der Beek in France, I believe. Hello all. Question: is there any market or need for a herbalist or phytotherapy in Portugal, or does everyone grow their own medicinal herbs? I don't know. I mean, that might be a bit beyond your realm of sort of everyday experience, Lee, but you've probably got a view on it.
It's not my cup of tea, but I imagine for the people that I've met on Facebook and the groups that I'm in, I imagine there's a call for it. There's some people in the area that like the healthy living, in the that mindset that I don't want to offend anybody.
That weirdness.
The alternative medicines. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I think you said enough by saying that. But so it's not your cup of herbal tea. I mean, we can see what you prefer anyway there. It's not his cup of herbal tea. I have to say, John, to answer your question there, I did a webinar with an insurance company, and I found out that herbalism is one of the 5 complementary therapies that is acknowledged in with health insurance. So I think there is an understanding and appreciation of herbalism in Portugal. So you're okay there. I mean, whether or not it's a viable business, I don't know. And I want to ask Lee. So do I take it then when you're growing herbs, you have a clear line, Lee, for between the culinary and medicinal? You don't grow them for any medicinal purpose yourself?
No, just for the kitchen.
Just for the kitchen. Yeah. But then again, they do say it's better to pay the cook than the doctor. So there's definitely a lot of merit in eating your own food, isn't there, for sure? So there you go, John. I mean, email me if you want some more on that in a different kind of environment. Lee makes a good point, has totally reminded me it's beer o'clock. So you've performed a very service already, Lee. So there you go, sponsored by Sagresh tonight. So we have another question, I think, that's come in from Anna. It might have been a continuation from last week. Anna, have you got something for us?
I haven't got any new questions from people I know or anything, but I'll keep an eye on and see if any come in. I've put up a message saying people can get in touch. But yes, if anyone is trying to tune in, just follow the link, by the way, and let StreamYard have access to Facebook. So just seeing on the screen now, so we can tell who you are. Please do allow access to Facebook, because then we can give you a mention.
I was just giggling there, Anna, not because of what you're saying, but because someone is, you know, this is definitely Q&A, but like, help is not necessarily a question we can. But they're saying, sorry, I meant to say hello. It's a big difference. There's a big difference. We'll stand down the emergency services Facebook user, whoever you are. And I think if you're all the same person in these 3 messages, we'll come back to that fabulous question that people want to know about here in Portugal. But let's do yours first, Anna. I think we're back to the UK for this one, aren't we?
Yeah, I was just asking the one a bit earlier before we came on about which plants love the green sand soil type, do you mean?
Sandy soil, yes, sandy and shady area. It just sounds like really not optimum conditions for growing things, but Lee will know better.
And this is the Wiltshire area, in case any UK listeners are tuned in.
Oh, there you go.
Can help.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Do we have a name for that person?
That'll be my aunt Alex, who yes.
Thank you, thank you, Aunt Alex, for that one. Lee, does any pointers there?
My connection's really bad.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Definitely. Yep, thumbs up on that. And we're looking for what you might grow in a shady and sandy area that's the southwest of England, I think, isn't it? But a bit not right down near Devon. Wiltshire.
Yeah.
Fairly.
Okay. Yeah.
Forced on and can withstand high winter winds.
It's worse growing solution. So
winter in free draining soil. Sorry, you're breaking up really badly for me, so I'm just trying to piece that together. I would look at obviously I'd look at the surrounding areas first and see what other people are growing in the area. It's always a good indication of what you could grow yourself. But stuff like lavender does quite well in free draining soil, and any of the succulents. You could look at maybe a succulent garden. They do quite well in that the strong winds and the salt. They don't mind the salt in the air as well, and the free draining soils. So succulents, lavender type plants, and look at your neighbours' gardens.
Okay,
that's what I would recommend.
Thank you.
There's his classic horticultural hack. Have a look round. Broaden your horizons a bit. See what's successful in other gardens. That's fantastic. Facebook user is Shelley, our dear friend Shelley. Don't know why I am incognito, so not meaning to be anonymous or cry for help, but has a question as well. Lee, do you have are you tasty to mosquitoes? Have you found since you've been in Portugal?
I've always been quite lucky. They don't seem to like me.
Lucky.
I lived in Scotland for quite some time, and I could be stood with a group of people, and I'd be the only person untouched. And I'm the same here in Portugal. They just don't seem to bother me at all.
Might be the
I've always been really lucky. But I'm also aware that I eat quite a lot of garlic on purpose for that reason. When the mozzies are out, I believe if you're eating a lot of garlic, they stay away from you. They just don't like the taste of it. Okay,
yeah, and good for vampires as well, obviously. Should that be the part of the world or company you keep? Okay, so is that true then of also the plant? If you plant a lot of garlic and those kind of what are they called? That family, the onions and the garlic and so on. Some pungent things in the garden. Is that going to help with mosquitoes? Do you know, or do they just not care?
Well, I've not seen it in the advice. I've not seen it in any advice for deterring flying insects, but I do have a screenshot of a list of plants that the insects don't like, and they can all be grown in containers. So I'll share that into the group later, so people can decide for themselves. Because I always think it's best if you can mix those plants in together as well, especially around the pool. Like we do it here at the pool. We'll put different containers around where we're going to sit. It seems to work a little bit. It seems to do the job.
Good, and you can move them, can't you, as well?
And you can move the containers around. That's the ideal.
All right.
So I'll share the group later. Yeah.
And of course, thank you everybody who's chipped in with that. Alliums, of course, the Allium family. And I don't know if there's other people who are chipping in now or if it's Shelley still, but I'd like that screenshot. Thank you very much. If that's possible, if that can go in the group, Lee, that'd be awesome. And I've read about alliums, geraniums, and rosemary, all fragrant in their own way. Yeah, all fragrant in their own way. That's fantastic. Okay, that's really good news on that question there. I've been able to help with that one. Fantastic. And the screenshot will go up in the group in due course. All right. Wanted to share a little bit of my gardening adventure, but not before Anna or John. I mean, as well as the bird feeding, Anna, and for you, John, having a look out the window tentatively. Have you made any gestures towards the get out and grow movement here? Is it warm enough yet to be in the garden, or are you still a little bit tentative with actually getting out there?
I did a bit of weeding the other week.
Good man.
Yeah, that's always good to get a bit of weeding done because, of course, it's just makes things look slightly better. But of course, what you can do is you could add it to the compost heap or something like that. So maybe it helps with the wildlife as well, possibly, because of course it might shake things up a bit, and then the birds can maybe find some insects or something to eat, and it's all quite an interesting thing. And of course, so that was it's quite interesting weeding. It was one of these really old weeding tools. It wasn't like the snipper things. It was you scrape along the I'm not sure where it is. It's probably in the shed somewhere, but it was like my great granddad's or something weeding tool.
Fantastic. Excellent.
So
in the
it's probably
generation.
over 100 years old, this weeding tool, and it still worked fine. So,
Terrific.
yeah.
And did you have your weeding dress on?
No, actually.
Very good.
But
Okay.
I think that was probably what made me think of that joke, to be fair.
Yes. And you don't want to alarm your neighbours unnecessarily, Johnny.
No.
Here he is again. Right. What about you, Anna?
Yeah, I have been told that sort of the weeding time is pretty much here and now, I think. So, yes, I might get out there and check up on how things are. It's just making me think, actually. I suppose this might help with anyone else who's thinking about doing a bit of weeding and maybe doesn't want to use any chemicals or anything. I'm trying to think if I've heard somewhere that hot water can also kill weeds. Am I right in thinking that if you or am I? I'm just trying to think if I'm imagining that, or if I do remember hearing about sort of pouring some hot water to try and get rid of weeds, but I might have just imagined that. I'm not sure.
I've never heard of anyone using hot water to kill weeds. I suppose it would work to a degree. You would break down the leaf, but you wouldn't get to the roots with it. It wouldn't affect the roots at all, unless you find it through a jet wash, and that'd work.
Yeah.
That's great. And there are so many blokes who'd want to do that, aren't there? Let's face it. Because
that's fantastic.
But what is it? Because it's the same thing that you said about, I like my shredder. And you said the problem with shredding is you never know when to stop. And people with jet washes don't know when to stop either, do they? They do the car and the patio and they think, well, what can I do now? Do the dog. And now they'll do the weeds because I heard that bloke saying it on that Q&A.
Yeah. But then they'll probably
it's a bizarre thing. Once the jet wash is out, I don't want to put it down.
Of course, what will happen is with the jet wash, they'll probably try and put it on too high a setting or something, some people, and then they'll destroy a load of brickwork in the garden or something like that.
That's right. You've got to be careful.
Happen sometimes, that doesn't it? You sort of,
you're right, mate.
Then it ends up as an art. Then on Facebook you see man destroys decking with jet wash or something.
Absolutely. And I was only joking. Never use it on pets. Okay. Do not do that. That was just a silly thing to say, which I retract immediately. Hello, not even next door's dog that won't stop barking. Hello, good afternoon, everyone from Info Portugal. Hello, Info Portugal. Good to have you here. And our old mate, Marcus Valbon, old as in the amount of time he's been a friend, not because he's ancient himself. But then again, I don't know. Hello, guys, from Marcos there. And use vinegar. There's something. Use vinegar to kill weeds. That could be a tip. You're not happy about that, Lee? Is it a waste? You should be on the chips and not on the weeds.
It's not an old wives' tale. It does work, but it's technically more harmful than herbicide.
Really?
People use vinegar. They use table salt. I've heard all sorts of old wives' tales and people using all different things. But what you're doing is you're changing the structure of the soil by using acidic or other chemicals. Then they're not designed to be weed killers. If you need to put salt down to kill weeds, you're putting a lot of salt down. It's changing the build up of the soil. It's changing the type of soil you've got, and the same with the vinegar. It's not for me. If you're going to do it by hand or use a good quality herbicide, but use it correctly. Use the right amount at the right time of day and the right environment.
All right, I'm thinking we're in marinade territory here. We've got Lee, who's eating a lot of garlic, making himself attractive to French mosquitoes, possibly, and then the vinegar here. It's almost sort of a culinary dressing for the weeds. Tell us how you got on with that, John. It'd be interesting to know a bit more about that. Question from Info Portugal. Sorry, Anna, go on.
That's right. I was just going to say it could be one we could put out to the listeners as well. Out of machinery or elbow grease or chemicals or the organic routes, which methods do people prefer?
Well said. Because I was thinking, when Lee was saying do it by hand, that's got to be the best way, isn't it? Minimal chemical use, exercise for you. Fantastic, best way if possible. But of course, that's an easy generalization to make. And we don't know what people's particular circumstances are there. Please, what says Info Portugal is a good season for planting grapes in fields? So you're getting a vineyard growing there, Info Portugal. Any experience with vines, head gardener?
I've not planted a vineyard yet.
Yeah.
I've done quite a bit. Done quite a bit of pruning recently. But I do believe you should be waiting for the wetter weather. I don't think now's the great time to be doing it. I might be wrong, but I'm just presuming. I'm going to look that up. Actually, I'm going to dive into that over the week and find out myself. Yeah,
because I'm in wine growing country here, as you can see out the window there. That's a vineyard over there, and the two things I've noticed in connection with this, the pruning is absolutely fierce. They cut the vines right back to a point where you think that's dead. But this week, or in the last 2 weeks, the growth is incredibly vigorous. It's an amazing thing to see. And I know that there's been some planting going on, I think. And I think you're right, Lee. It's not as late as this because they're taking advantage of the growing season now, and planting happened earlier or will happen later.
Yeah.
Okay. Wine grape.
Find out. Yeah.
Right, Info Portugal. You might want to join us on a Thursday evening for the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. The grapes of Portugal, the famous, the Baga grape, the Touriga Nacional. The Touriga Nacional is the daddy of all grapes in Portugal, I think. But join us on a Thursday night to find out more about that, and would love to know more about you, Info Portugal, and your growing aspirations there. Sounds fantastic. We got a fan. Shabazz Gondal says, "Hello, sir. How are you?" So that's for one of us three with a love heart there. How nice this afternoon in Portugal. An organic purist here, clashing with you, Lee. And this is a perennial disagreement, isn't it, that we're used to here. Don't use herbicides. Just lay cardboard over the weedy area and cover the cardboard with compost. Then plant into the compost. The weeds will rot and feed the soil biome and the new plants above. So a bit of an organic person speaking there, or a permaculturist, I think, which we're always going to get. I think we're going to get these new school, old school business going on, aren't we?
It works really well on a vegetable patch. But if you've got a rose bed, or you've got weeds coming up between the flags outside the house, or weeds on the street in front of your gate, you can't lay cardboard on them. So,
yes.
No, I agree. In the veg beds, in the vegetable beds, you can leave it over winter, cover them with cardboard, put your straw on top. It works wonderful.
Yeah.
It works really well. I'm not disagreeing, but just in other environments, sometimes herbicide is the way to go.
This is it, isn't it?
Use correctly in the correct manner at the correct time of day. Blah blah.
Yes, but you make a very good point there. You make a really good point there, because with so often these things, this can become a sort of argument, can't it? This polarized age that we live in, which is best, this or that, and we can always come back to, can't we? There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah,
and so I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That's great. But thanks, Jose. It's great to have your company here and that suggestion. So thank you very much. John's back with a vinegar technique. Use the vinegar on the stone walkways, driveway, etc. Obviously not on your veg patch, unless you're growing pre-vinegared potatoes. Maybe there's a new thing, a new invention there. And like you said, don't put salt and vinegar on your growing potatoes. It won't help. It sounds like a good idea that a kid might have, doesn't it? Or look, my son might come up with that. Why don't we put salt and vinegar on the potatoes now while they're growing, and then you won't have to put it on when you're having your chips. Jason says my vines have started budding. Want to see some pictures from your plot, Jason? An occasional visitor here, and always great to have your company. Love to see some pictures, please, in the Happy Homesteaders and Get Out and Grow group on Facebook. It'd be really lovely to see them on there. Now is the time. I'm going to share some pictures in a minute. Info Portugal, thank you so much for your quick response. A pleasure, Info Portugal. And Deja say, fair point about the cracks in the flags. That's going to look, you are going to look like the worst kind of permaculture hippie if you cover up your pavement with cardboard to get rid of the weeds there. But that's fantastic, Deja say. Great to have your company this afternoon. If I may then add to the stream here, there we go. Look, that's the view out the window. Very spring-like at the moment, and I wanted to share a couple of things from the garden today in this neck of the woods. This one, look at this. You younger gardeners, can you identify this one?
I can't see the image properly. I'm on my telephone again. So
I do beg your pardon.
I was having a closer look. I was guessing elderflower, looking at the type of flowers.
Bingo!
Yeah. I was going to say either that or cow parsley. I remember those look very similar.
You're so right, Anna. You should never worry that your gardening knowledge isn't up to par. That's a fantastic and accurate guess. And you're right. It does look a bit like cow parsley. But the reason I'm sharing that is because I was out and about in the garden with the kids earlier on, and there was this aroma in the air. And I thought to myself, I know that is, and this is what happens in it. It took me back to my childhood, balmy days in England. Yeah, and it's such a particular. I mean, the first really strong aroma we've had in the garden here is jasmine. The jasmine is really very fragrant and beautiful. And wonderful Donna Grasser has put it as you're coming up and down the stairs, so you get a really good nose full of it there. But today, wandered away from the house a little bit, and I could smell this in the air. I was thinking, what is that? I was taken right back to my childhood. I looked up, and this beautiful thing about it is that those flowers are kind of glowing, as you can see. There's a spring sunshine behind them, and they're sort of translucent with the spring sunshine and that aroma. And I just said, yeah, that's elderflower. And then the next thing I'm thinking is, like, can Mrs. M get some elderflower fizz out of these bad boys in the next few days? Because you can make quite a nice little a quick fermentation with this stuff. Do you ever do that, Lee?
I haven't done it personally, but I've got a good friend in the UK that does it regularly.
Have you tasted it?
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Great thing to do. Drink responsibly, and don't be messing about with that. So don't be blaming us for your garden experiments. So of legal age and under supervision, and go steady and make sure you've got the right things with all the caveats we normally give when you're going out in the garden there. And then just finally, my experiments have been pretty poor, I have to say. The garlic's doing okay. I think the shoes didn't make it, but Mrs. M has transferred a load of things. We were doing an inside gardening project with some incredible LED lighting, I think, and she'd planted all manner of things, tomatoes, chilies, all sorts of things like that. I made a little irrigation system. Hasn't quite worked out as planned. We do like to try these innovations, so it's all going outside now because it might as well be outside, as you can see there. So some beans and peppers and spinach, all kinds of things going outside now. And there's little Peggy hiding among them. You can see the stray dog who turned up one day under a rose bush, actually found by the kids under a rose bush, and there she is. She's enjoying herself out with the plants today. So that's where we're at. And I just got one more question, please, Lee, if I may. A little while ago, you mentioned a really good way of getting kids involved in the garden is to plant these up. Are we still in time for that with the sunflowers this time of year?
I'm sorry, Carl, you broke up again there, mate.
No worries, mate. The girasol, as it's known in Portugal, the sunflower. Are we still on target for planting up sunflowers in time and letting the kids really learn something with that?
Yeah, Carl, I'm gonna have to disconnect and reconnect, mate. I can't hear you properly.
No worries. Well, we only got a few minutes left. We've got some lovely comments coming in. I'm eating particular flowers like this emoji. Oh, he's eating the nasturtiums, I think. Is that right? Are those nasturtium flowers that you're popping in your salad there? Really nice, edible.
Yeah, I think it is. Yes, if they're slightly peppery, I think they will be.
And have you done that, Anna?
I think I have tried some. I think I do remember in the bistro. I remember I think it was the first time I tried some. I think that was the first time I ever knew they were edible. I think because I think it was mostly the salads and a bit of decoration with the cakes, if I remember rightly. So yeah, they've got quite an interesting flavour. I haven't actually tried many other edible flowers yet, so I'll have to try that out at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Hedgerow salad and edible flowers, fantastic. This is it, Jean van der Beek. You should make some syrup from those flowers, Carl. Absolutely. I think a bit of a fizzy fermentation and some syrup as well. Loads of what Vit C in the syrup there. John is grinning again. I think, John, you should unmute and share what's on your mind. You've got names for vines, haven't you?
Yes. Well, you may have heard of a comedian called Tim Vine.
Right, and his brother Jeremy.
And Jeremy, yes. Okay, so vines are called Tim or Jeremy.
Okay, so you go so I'm going outside to visit Tim and Jeremy.
Yeah, well, I don't actually have any grapevines, but if people who do, then maybe they could say that, yes.
Very good. Dijose saying a similar thing. Make a syrup from the berries, the elderberries, of course, great for colds and flu. And the COVIDs, very good. Yes, on the vitamin C side. Thank you for that, Dijose. Brilliant time now. Go on, Lee.
It rules out any connection issue here.
Oh, he's got his IT support with him there. Flower and no flower, vanilla have beautiful smells. Absolutely, vanilla is a. But can we? We'll ask Lee that if he's managed to grow vanilla in. I think vanilla must be a very tropical plant, right? Given that the only one I know of is Madagascar, and I'm thinking Madagascar is a very tropical climate. You never grew vanilla, did you, Anna? When you were working on the Hannah's Growing project?
I not that I remember, but I do have a little bit of a background fact kicking in the back of my my brain if I'm trying to remember this right. But I do remember that I think it is Burnham Nursery. I think it is in Newton Abbot or just outside Newton Abbot. I didn't actually know this, but for those of you who might have gone there, I believe the cafe is actually called Cafe Vanilla. And I didn't actually realise that vanilla actually comes from orchid. I don't know if it's a particular type of orchid, but I think that was the first I actually knew about it. But yeah, they have a whole load of orchids, which is amazing. So yeah, I do recommend. I can't remember its opening times or what seasons it's open, but yeah, it's around about the Newton Abbot area for those Devon listeners.
Lovely name for a cafe. We've got a face on the screen now, not the face we want, but it looks like a couple of eyes. Oh no, he's back again now. So let's see if he's there. Are you hearing us, Lee?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
What are the chances of growing vanilla in Portugal? It's a real tropical thing, isn't it? An orchid with a pod.
I've not seen it, but I'm getting an echo now.
So good they heard him twice. We're all right. We're hearing you fine at this end.
Okay. I've not seen it. I've not seen it in Portugal. I can't see the reason why it wouldn't grow. Yeah.
Okay, worth giving a go then. Elderberries, says John, which takes us immediately to Monty Python. But anyway, watch out with the berries. Those are poison if not prepared right. The elderberries there. So yeah, always be careful. Make sure you're absolutely definitely sure of what you're eating from the garden, folks. We don't want anyone getting into any of that kind of trouble here. Elderflower, full of anti-inflammatory and antibacterial, antioxidant properties. Yeah, what a superfood, DJ say. That's great. And Vara, the older elderflower thing has really triggered a lot of people to share, which is great. And their fondness for the plant, the tree, or is it a bush? Elderflower champagne does come out smashing and really easy to make, cordial for the kids. Elderberries were used historically by monks in Portugal for medicinal purposes and makes a really amazing vinegar. Here's another thing, an elderberry vinegar as well. That's interesting. I will let Mrs. M know about that as well. Okay, into the closing minutes. Head gardener, what should we be doing for the week ahead?
Well, it's for me personally, at the moment, all the hedges are shooting. So it's going to be hedge work. It's going to be feeding of the lawns, feeding of the roses, feeding of all the big shrub plants. It's that time of year to start getting all the nutrients back into the soil, getting the manure on. Exciting times. Yeah, getting busy.
That's another thing you might be heard saying as you leave the house. I'm going to get my manure on, which has got a certain ring to it, isn't it, today? John, thank you very much. I know you need to leave promptly, and you like it. Great job. And to Anna as well, thank you very much this evening for being here. Did you want to add anything else, Anna and Lee, before you go?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I was just going to say, if anyone's got any questions, just send them in to us in the group, and we'll make a note of them, and we'll be happy to ask them next Monday between 6 and 7. And if you need any help, you can tag any of us in the question, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we appreciate all the questions, and we'll do what we can.
Perfect, Anna. Thank you so much. Lee, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, there was a question in the group today, and I didn't really get a chance to respond to it properly, about wisteria. Oh yes. And I just wanted to get a few bits of information out there. It does do really well in poor quality soil. It'll grow anywhere, given half a chance. It'll grow. But I think the question was, how quickly can you develop onto flowers? So a couple of suggestions would be always buy mature wisteria. The more money you spend on it, the bigger you buy, the quicker you'll achieve the flowering stage. They don't like to be pruned. They don't like any heavy pruning. So when you do buy one, try to train it rather than snipping away all the time.
Yeah.
And in the UK, it can be anything from sort of 10 to 15 years to get a good flower on a wisteria. But we're quite lucky in Portugal that drops down to maybe, well, I would say 7 years is a good age, sort of 5 to 7. So if you buy something that's already quite well developed, at maybe 3 or 4 years old, you're not waiting too long. But if you really want to achieve a nice development of climbers like I do, like I'm hoping to achieve, it's always best to mix things in with it. So if you do the wisteria and the jasmine, that works really well together. The jasmine flowers just before the wisteria does. My jasmine now is dying off, and the wisteria is coming on strong. And then there's the fire lily, or the creeping lily. If you can add that in, that flowers much later than the wisteria, so you get all three on the same terrace.
Beautiful.
It looks fantastic.
I bet it
That
does.
was just a question I wanted to get to.
No, that's great. Thanks, Lee. And that's a real lovely surprise for Brits. Certainly, you come to Portugal in it to see how quickly the wisteria will grow and flower, and how some of the more established ones are just absolutely prolific and almost pest-like, aren't they? I mean, you get them growing up a tree. We had the last house we were in. There was a really magnificent 20-year-old pine tree, the pine nut tree, the Pinheiro Manso, I think as they call it here, and the old wisteria that had been part of the boundary wall. Really massive roots on it, disturbing the wall, had also gone up into the pine tree. So you'd get this beautiful display of, as you know, the wisteria flowers, or glycinias as they're known here, just coming out of the pine, and it was wonderful. Although, you know, I want maybe a bit of a threat to the tree itself at some point. But great shout that on the wisteria.
It is a really heavy plant. Although it's a climber, it's got some real weight in it. So if you're going to allow it to climb up anything, make sure it's a sturdy foundation for it to develop onto.
Oh, excellent point. Excellent point.
I've just seen we've got another question, but I can't actually pronounce the one that's highlighted. I can't actually pronounce the plant in question, so I'll leave that to you.
How much? Thanks, Anna. Thank, well spotted. How much can you cut back a bougainvillea?
I wouldn't know. I don't actually know.
So you're not familiar with the bougainvillea, or you're just not familiar with its pruning, with the pruning habits?
I'm not familiar with how much you would got to prune it back.
Okay.
I could look it up and put it in the page. I'll have a look, but it's not something I want to give advice. I don't know the real answer to.
No, fair point. And you're a brave man being here alone, because you'll notice that many gardening programs have a panel of at least 4 experts, don't they, who often disagree with each other as well, like classically gardeners question time. So there'll be battling out.
If you've ever been to the gardeners question time, they also know the questions in advance. Well, I don't get that opportunity.
Oh, okay. So an extra brave guy coming on here and doing this. We do appreciate it, Lee. You really do.
And if I can help, I'm glad to. So yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay, and you would imagine, wouldn't you, bougainvillea? That's going to be a beauty. I can't picture that in my mind's eye, but it sounds like there's going to be a picture of that and a little bit more information on the cutting back of that in the group, as Lee has said there. Thanks, folks. Been amazing again. All right, cheers, Lee. Have a great evening. Looks like a good start to it.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. See you soon, buddy.
Cheers, Anna. Take care. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now.